Hi, and welcome back to Wireshark Certified Network Analysis video series. This is Abdullah, and we are going to talk in this video. We are going to talk about defining the global and personal preferences, colorizing traffic, and defining time values. In the videos that we talked about earlier, we talked about the colors, but we didn't talk about it in depth. So we are going to talk about coloring rules in a little bit more depth that will get you to understand what coloring rules exactly can do for you to help you um, colorize traffic of the specific traffic that you're looking for using Wireshark. Now, the first thing we're going to jump into is defining global and personal preference. And this is very important because there's two types of preferences in Wireshark, and you can find them by going to the About tab, and I will show you that right now. If we bring Wireshark here, to go to the preferences and you want to see what folders your preferences are, you go to help, you go to about Wireshark, and you go to folders, and you can see there's personal configuration and there's global configuration. Okay, now what is the difference between global configuration and personal configuration? Global configuration folder will have all the configuration that are original to Wireshark when you installed it. What it means, when you installed Wireshark, the configuration that came from the factory that came with Wireshark are all set in that personal configuration folder. And then we have, in the global configuration folder. And then we have personal configuration folder that everything you change when you're using Wireshark, it will be saved in the personal configuration folder, so you can actually copy and paste this folder and take it with you to a different PC, to a different laptop, use Wireshark on a different machine, and you still have the same configuration you have on your main machine. So you can change, you can take them with you wherever you go, so you don't have to make all those adjustments every time you use Wireshark on a different machine. It's a great feature. It saves you a lot of time, and it gives you a lot of flexibility. And so now you're wondering what's inside those folders. What is the personal configuration folder or the global configuration folder have to offer for you? Now, if you open Wireshark and you go to Help and you go to About Wireshark and then go to Folders to see your personal configuration and global configuration folder, and you press double click on either one, the C filter, like there's specific files or some files that you need to keep a look at in there. Like for example, the first one I have in here is the preferences. This is a generated each time preferences are saved within Wireshark. You need to remember the name of the file and you need to remember what that file do. So now we know preferences, it will save anything you change on Wireshark into that folder, and it's just a regular notepad um, uh, file. So it just this is what Wireshark use. And then we have the next one is C filters. Don't mix C filters with color filters. C filters is to save all the capture filters you have changed in Wireshark, and color filters is going to save all the color filters you have saved on Wireshark. Now these are the personal. Now if I go back to the global configuration folders, let's go to global, and then the global, let's look for the defilters. Well, the defilters is all the display filters that are saved on Wireshark. These are the display filters that comes with Wireshark, and every time you add any more display filters, they will be saved into the display filters file in your personal folder. And again, you can take this folder with you anywhere. You can put it on a USB drive and just take it to any machine, and you have all these color filters and capture filters saved, and you can use them. Now we have the MNUF manufacturer folder. This is a great folder. This is what Wireshark use to resolve all the MAC addresses for any of the packets that you have. For example, right here we have Cisco. Now Cisco, anything start with 0002 BA, it's a Cisco, or B9 is a Cisco. So this is what Wireshark used to resolve all those MAC addresses names when you work on Wireshark. For example, like if we go to Wireshark here, and let's say start a capture right here. No, actually, I am using an option right here. Let's go capture options. Let's say I don't want anything. Let's just capture anything. And now it's gonna capture everything. Let's stop this and let's come here and let's say Ethernet, and let's say What is the MAC address? Well, this is a broadcast. This is a source right here, which is coming from this name right here. And if you see, it resolved that name, that MAC address to HP. So it used that manufacturer folder that we have to change all or to resolve all the MAC addresses names. And then we have services folder. Services folder is another great feature. What Wireshark uses it to resolve port numbers into human readable services names. For example, TCP port 80 is HTTP. So if we look inside the services folder right here and open it, is going to give us these all port numbers and what is that port number is for and what does it do. So it gives you the port number and it will give you what that port number is, so you will understand, because you're not going to memorize every port number that all the protocols use and everything. It's really hard. Okay, now let's move on. So before we move on, we need to remember again, these are very important. These are the files that are in the global and personal folders: the preferences, C filters, color filters, D filters, and manufacturer and services. Okay, now next we have colorizing traffic. Okay, now we talked about color filters earlier in an earlier video, but this we're gonna go a little bit more in depth about it. Now this is the Wireshark coloring rules profile, and these are the default coloring rules. And as you see, as I have in here, coloring rules are processed from top to bottom. You need to remember that, because if you have a coloring rule that is, let's say it's an ARP right here, and this is the color, and you have a coloring rule right here at the bottom that it's closer or it will fall under the same ARP category, but you have a different color here, actually it will take the first color is C's because it processed from top to bottom. Okay, now coloring rules use display filter syntax, so we talked about that in the second video, as I think of the series. And now there are two types of coloring rules in Wireshark: temporary ones that are only used until you quit the program, and permanent ones that will be saved to a preference file, so they are available on the next session. What does this mean? All right, let me bring Wireshark right here, and as we can see, oh, Wireshark, where did you go? Okay, bring Wireshark back. Okay, and this is Wireshark, and as you can see, I have different colors right here. We have green, we have blue, we have the TCP, the ARP, silver, and gray, and all these colors, right? Now, if you press here on the edit coloring rules, these are the rules that comes with Wireshark. Okay, these what Wireshark coloring rules are. And now if you press new, you can actually make a new coloring rules, just like when you make a new capture filter or a new display filters, and you can use display filter syntax as a coloring rule. Now an easier way to make a coloring rule is by going to, or to know what is that coloring rule coming from, is if you press on any packet and you go to the frame and you go here, it says coloring rule name HTTP. That's what the coloring rule is, and this is the coloring rule string. All right, now I can actually make any packet in a different color by right clicking on it and going to colorizing conversation, and I choose either I want it depending on layer 1, layer 2, or if it's UDP or TCP, and then I choose the color I want, and then it will change that conversation, like right here, change those two colors to that color that I choose. Now this is temporary color, this is not permanent. This is just for me to know that I want to see this conversation in a different color from all the colors around it. Let me make it something we can actually make it feel different. Okay, pink. So if you see, it changed those two because those are the conversation in here between those two IP addresses. And now if you want to remove these color and go back to the original colors, you can just you can either choose a profile right here and change the profile, or go to the default profile and just took you back to the default colors. I like the right click the classic. The classic are more bright. I use this classic. And by the way, talking about profiles right here, profiles are this is part of Wireshark, when you can actually make custom profiles, and every time you change calling rules in different profile, they will change only in that profile. So when you go to the default or whatever the classic that saved in Wireshark, you will go to the original Wireshark colors. So you can use those profiles to change whatever you want on Wireshark, and then when you go back to the original, you find everything the way it was. So you can go back and forth with profiles, and you can take those profiles with you with your personal configuration folder, and you can use them on any other machine. Okay, now um, Now there's another way. Oh, okay. Now the other way to actually remove the coloring rule. Let's go back and do this coloring rule thing again. Colorizing conversation. This is the temporary and made it pink. I can go to view and I can go reset coloring, and then actually it take me back to the original coloring of my profile. Another way to do this. This is a good way to do. Sometimes when you're dealing with big files and you want to, you saw a packet that will say, okay, I like this packet and I want to look at it. I'll right click and mark packet, and then it will mark that packet in a black color. And then I go, I look in another packet and then right click and mark packet, it will color that packet. So I have this one right here and this one right here, and they're there for me to see because I mark them because I'm interested in those packets, and I want to look at them later after I look through the entire capture. Okay, now let's see what else do we have. Let's go to the next section. All right, define time values. All right, now time is important when you're doing Wireshark and when you're doing network analysis, because it's important for you to know, how long for the packet is taking to go from from your computer to the server, or from the client to the switch to the router and all this stuff. And what there's different times formats that Wireshark use, and there are those right here: date and time of the day, seconds since beginning of the capture, and this is the default, and which is the best one that I can use. Seconds since previous capture packet, seconds since previous display packet, seconds since epoch 1970 0101. Okay, now what did this mean? Like, let me bring Wireshark back here. Now let me start a capture so I can have more packets. Okay, now I have a bunch of packets going on. I'm capturing right now, and I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to go to the top of the packets. And if you see, the first packet is 000, that's the packet since the beginning of the capture. And the second packet came after 0.0035 seconds, and so on and so forth. Now what you can do is, let's say you want to know how long it took for this whole conversation to go through, the one that right here, the UDP conversation right here. You can actually right click on one of those on the beginning of the conversation and say set time reference. So anything after that, it's going to be like this was the first packet received by Wireshark. And then if you go down here and say set time reference, now from this packet to this packet, you took 0.00107,900 time. This is the time that it took from this packet to this packet. And you can do that with more than once. And then all you need, if you want to remove it, you are going to say, toggle, click on it, right click, set time preference, and you will ignore it, and it will do it the same way. And this is important because you can actually see, if let's say right here, right click, and let's say we're going to talk about the UDP stream, follow UDP stream, and now this is the UDP conversation that happened between those two, and I just filtered it right there, and now I know. Now this is, telling you how long it takes. So if I take right click, set time preference, now it's telling you it took 0.143371000 seconds for this conversation to take effect. And let me remove this display filters, and it's going to take us back. So the way I did that, if I'm interested in a specific conversation, let's say I want to see this conversation, I'm going to right click on it, I'm going to right click on it, I'm going to say follow UDP stream, or if it was a TCP, I'm going to follow TCP stream. If it's an SSL, I'm going to follow SSL stream. Follow UDP stream, close this. Now this is the UDP conversation that happened between those two sources, this source and destination. And if you see, I have the reference here. So it take this much time, and it took this much time for the entire conversation to go through. And then to go back to the entire capture, it's just when I say follow UDP stream, all it did a capture filter for that UDP stream, delete it, press enter, and it will take you back to the actual capture filter. So we covered in this video, we covered 3 topics that are really important, especially define the global and personal preferences, and then we have colorizing traffic and defining time values. I hope you learned something, and then in the next video we'll talk about more stuff, and I hope you enjoyed it today. Thank you so much for watching, and you have a great day.